The Abbey of St. Maurne stood like a forgotten sentinel at the edge of the world. Its stone walls, battered by centuries of wind and rain, loomed on a cliff overlooking the stormy North Sea. For those who entered, few left unchanged. The letter arrived in a wax-sealed envelope, stark against the monotony of Dr. Isabel Hart's desk. A renowned forensic psychologist, Isabel had spent her career untangling the threads of disturbed minds, but the contents of this letter brought her to an uneasy pause. Your brother, Father Caleb Hart, has passed under circumstances that require your attention. We urge you to come to St. Maurne's Abbey immediately. The Abbey had been Caleb's refuge since he turned to God, fleeing the trauma of their shared past. Isabel, though skeptical of faith, respected his choice. But the abruptness of his death and the enigmatic wording of the letter stirred something deep in her, an unshakable sense of foreboding. She boarded the next train to the remote coastal village of Grey Haven, unaware she was stepping into a darkness far older and far more insidious than she could imagine. The Abbey revealed itself through the mist as Isabel ascended the rocky path. Its towering spires pierced the grey sky, and its bell tolled with a mournful cadence. She was met at the gates by Sister Miriam, a stern woman whose gaunt features seemed chiseled from stone. We've been expecting you, Miriam said, her voice cold. There are things you must understand, Dr. Hart. This place operates on faith, not reason. Isabel was shown to Caleb's sparse quarters. His personal effects had been boxed away, save for one, a journal resting on the desk. Flipping through its pages, Isabel found scrawled entries growing increasingly frantic. The sisters sing in the night. It is not a hymn, it is something else entirely. They call it the consecration. They say it keeps us safe. But I hear the screams beneath the songs. If you find this, Isabel, please know, they are not what they seem. That night, Isabel wandered the Abbey, drawn by an eerie chant. She followed the sound to a locked door beneath the sanctuary. Pressing her ear to the wood, she heard voices, low, rhythmic, and hauntingly inhuman. The next morning, she confronted the abbess, Mother Aurelia, a woman whose serene smile did little to mask the steel beneath. You heard the choir, Aurelia said, unflinching. They sing to protect us. Their song is a barrier against the forces that seek to consume this world. Isabel was unconvinced. She spent the next days piecing together fragments of Caleb's life at the Abbey, uncovering stories of disappearances, whispers of forbidden rites, and the unsettling silence of the nuns. Her unease deepened when she met Sister Ilara, a novice with wide, frightened eyes. Ilara confessed that the Abbey's rituals were more than prayer. They call it faith, Ilara whispered, but it's submission. The consecration binds us to something ancient. Caleb tried to stop it. Driven by Ilara's words, Isabel discovered a hidden staircase leading to a crypt beneath the Abbey. The air grew colder with each step, and the walls were inscribed with symbols that seemed to writhe under her gaze. At the crypt's center was an altar, surrounded by darkened candles. Upon the altar lay a book bound in aged leather, its pages filled with intricate diagrams and text in a language Isabel couldn't decipher. She photographed the pages, intending to decipher them later. As she turned to leave, the faint hum of a chant began to fill the chamber. The shadows seemed to stretch toward her, and she fled, heart pounding. Isabel shared the photos with a linguist in Grey Haven, who identified the language as a mix of Latin and an ancient dialect predating known civilizations. The text described an ancient entity bound beneath the Abbey, appeased through songs of devotion. The consecration was not a ritual of protection but of containment. Caleb had discovered this truth and had tried to warn others, only to pay the ultimate price. Returning to the Abbey, Isabel confronted Mother Aurelia, who admitted the truth with chilling calm. If we do not sing, Dr. Hart, the entity awakens, Aurelia said. It was Caleb's arrogance that endangered us all. He sought to silence the choir. The night of the consecration arrived. Isabel, determined to stop the cycle, infiltrated the sanctuary. She watched as the nuns assembled, their chant growing louder, the very air vibrating with unnatural energy. The floor beneath the altar began to crack, and a dark mist seeped through. Isabel realized the entity was awakening, not from silence, but from the song itself. The chant was a summoning. Acting on instinct, she doused the altar in oil and set it aflame. The choir faltered, the room erupting into chaos as the flames consumed the ancient text and the entity's presence screamed in fury. The abbey began to collapse, the entity's tether broken. Isabel dragged Alara and a few others to safety, escaping into the stormy night as the structure crumbled into the sea. In the quiet dawn, Isabel stood on the cliffs, watching the waves crash against the ruins of St. Moritz. The entity was gone, its hold on the abbey shattered. But as she turned to leave, she felt a cold breeze brush her cheek and heard a faint hum, like a distant, haunting melody. The darkness was not gone. It was waiting. And Isabel knew it would call again. Clara Sinclair had spent her life in the shadows of the Grand Sinclair estate. Her father, Charles, had been the Sinclair family chauffeur for as long as she could remember. The estate, perched on a cliff overlooking the glistening waters of Cape Meridian, was a world of privilege, elegance, and secrets, a world Clara admired from afar but never truly belonged to. For years, Clara harbored a quiet affection for William Sinclair, the younger of the two Sinclair brothers. William, with his charming smile, sun-kissed hair, and devil-may-care attitude, was the heartthrob of every socialite in the town. He was the life of every party, the man who could turn even the dullest gala into a night to remember. But to William, Clara was invisible, a girl with a notebook always tucked under her arm, scribbling dreams while waiting for her father to finish his work. The elder brother, Jonathan Sinclair, was William's opposite. Dark-haired, reserved, and all business, Jonathan was the CEO of Sinclair Global Industries, a tech empire. He spent his days in tailored suits and his nights poring over spreadsheets. To him, emotions were a liability, and time was too precious to waste on frivolity. __record___. When Clara turned 21, her father insisted she leave the estate to study culinary arts in Paris. It was his way of giving her a life outside the confines of their small garage apartment. Reluctantly, she agreed. Paris transformed her. The timid girl who once dreamed in secret found her voice amidst the bustling markets and the aroma of freshly baked croissants. Clara became a celebrated pâtissière, crafting delicate pastries that graced the windows of Paris's finest bakeries. 3 years later, she returned to Cape Meridian, no longer the shy chauffeur's daughter but a poised young woman with an air of mystery and sophistication. The Sinclairs were hosting their annual garden party when Clara made her first appearance. She wore a simple yet elegant black dress, her dark curls cascading down her back. Conversations halted as guests turned to see the enigmatic beauty who seemed to glide rather than walk. William noticed her immediately. "Who is that?" he murmured to his friend, his eyes locked on Clara. "That's Clara. Charles's daughter," his friend replied, smirking at William's stunned expression. "Clara?" William repeated, disbelief coloring his tone. Clara didn't approach William. Instead, she mingled effortlessly with the guests, her confidence a magnet. When their eyes finally met across the garden, Clara gave him a smile, a knowing smile that was equal parts invitation and challenge. William, captivated by Clara's transformation, began to pursue her with the fervor of a man who'd never been denied. He sent her flowers, invited her to dinners, and even tried his hand at baking, an endeavor that ended in flour-covered chaos. But Clara was no longer the starry-eyed girl who had once idolized him. She saw through his charm, understanding that William was used to getting what he wanted without truly valuing it. Meanwhile, Jonathan observed the unfolding drama with a mix of irritation and intrigue. To him, Clara was a distraction his brother couldn't afford, especially with a major merger looming. Yet, he couldn't deny the pull he felt whenever she was near. Her wit challenged him, her intelligence intrigued him, and her presence unsettled his carefully ordered life. One evening, William whisked Clara away to a beach bonfire, where he confessed his newfound feelings. "You've changed, Clara," he said, his voice earnest. "You're not just the girl next door anymore. You're remarkable." Clara looked at him, her heart torn. She had waited years to hear those words, but now they felt hollow. "You don't love me, William. You love the idea of me. And that's not enough." Before William could respond, Jonathan appeared, his expression unreadable. "William, the board needs you at the office," he said curtly. William hesitated, then left reluctantly. Jonathan turned to Clara, his voice softening. "You handled that well." Clara raised an eyebrow. "Were you eavesdropping?" "I prefer to call it strategic observation," he replied, a rare hint of a smile playing on his lips. As weeks passed, Clara found herself drawn to Jonathan. Beneath his stoic exterior lay a man capable of deep passion and loyalty. He didn't shower her with grand gestures but showed his care in quieter ways, bringing her coffee during her early morning baking sessions, listening intently as she spoke about her dreams, and challenging her to see the world from new perspectives. One evening, as they stood on the estate's balcony overlooking the sea, Clara asked, "Why do you always keep your guard up?" Jonathan looked at her, his gaze steady. "Because letting people in means risking everything." Clara stepped closer. "Maybe some risks are worth taking." The merger was finalized, and the garden party season came to an end. Clara and Jonathan, now inseparable, decided to carve out their own path away from the Sinclair estate. They opened a boutique bakery together in the heart of Cape Meridian, combining her culinary genius with his business acumen. William, though initially heartbroken, eventually found his own happiness, realizing he was better suited for a life of adventure than commitment. As for Clara and Jonathan, their love story became the talk of Cape Meridian, not because of its drama, but because of its authenticity. It was a story of two people from different worlds finding common ground and building a life together, one sweet moment at a time.